So when people hear about the 4% rule, a lot of them think it's just 4% of what their balance is at any time. But can you
Okay.
dig in a little bit to that original 4.5%? It's really of the first year's retirement balance, and how should they make adjustments over time based on your
Yeah,
original research?
you're exactly correct, Ben. I think people need to think of it like Social Security, where the first year they apply that 4% or 5%, whatever number they come up with, to their starting portfolio balance. So if they start with, let's say, $1 million in an IRA, which we should all have, right?
Yep.
And they take 5% of it, they can take out then $50,000 the first year. After that first year, they throw that 5% away and they simply just give themselves a cost of living adjustment like Social Security does. If inflation was 10%, they increase last year's withdrawal by 10%. So if they took out 50,000 last year, they take out 55,000 this year, and then just repeat that process every year. So the idea of that withdrawal scheme is basically keep pace with inflation.
And as we've talked about, or as you just mentioned, which was the 7% number sounded surprisingly high to me too, as you said it out
Uh-huh.
loud, and I'm in the
Uh-huh.
business. What is your advice to retirees? Maybe the first 10 or 20 years of their retirement has gone very well. They've maybe they've gotten better than expected returns out of the market. Should they loosen up that original assumption of just giving themselves cost of living adjustments, or when would you recommend they alter it, if at all?
That's really an excellent question. And in my book, I spend a lot of time dealing with it. It's important to recognize that what you set up for yourself at the start of retirement, you don't, it's just not a number you pick and then forget about it. You're actually developing a plan. And with any long range plan, whether it be investment plan, insurance plan, estate plan, it has to be managed. It has to be monitored over time and determine whether or not what's happening to your portfolio is in line with what you originally expected to happen. Now, the situation you mentioned, where you find yourself 10 or 15 or 20 years to retirement and you're doing much better than expected, that was actually the situation that people invested who retired, let's say, in the mid to late 80s encountered, because they retired into an enormous bear market. Their portfolio grew much faster than expected. And if you remember that stock market valuations were very cheap in the early 80s, and they grew dramatically through the 80s and 90s. So all these retirees had an enormous tailwind. And I actually have an example in my book of such an investor retired in the 80s who was able to increase the withdrawal rate several times during retirement because of these very unusual circumstances, which you couldn't expect that, when they retired. But basically, you need to have a template or a standard on which to compare your performance against. And once you develop that, then you can make these decisions with greater confidence.